We'll hear first.
The sound is low.
And with a dream, a clergyman, advocate, an activist. But for these women, he was more than that. He was a father, brother, and family man.
He would look at me as I was growing up and say, "You're going to be a very pretty lady. Your daddy and I are going to have to watch out and shake the guys away." And I used to just laugh, but I felt so safe because I knew he had my back.
When my father would come home off the road, we had a game we were engaged in. It was a kissing game. And he had identified different spots on his face for each one of us. I was a little bit jealous because my sister had one right off to the side of the mouth. And mine was I remember mine being on the forehead. But that's an experience that when I was 10 years old, I remembered as if it were yesterday. So I remember him kind of as a fun, loving person. And if you brought my siblings in the room, they would say the same thing.
My favorite memory was in Ebenezer Church. After church, he would stand in a line to greet the members. And he would see me down the door, and he would step into the aisle, and I would run down the aisle, and he would pick me up and give me a big hug.
I married Dr. King's brother, and then I came into this lovable family. You know, I remember him as a warm, loving, supportive family member.
He and my father, Reverend A.D. King, used to preach together. They were called the Sons of Thunder. And so to know Martin, our Uncle Emil, as a preacher, as a father, we loved to go to their home. And he would be there, his laughter, he would tinkle a few notes on the piano. So that's the man that I remember, not just the leader. And my mother may tell you he loves sweet potato pie.
Dr. King's vision was clear: equality among all men and women, regardless of color, creed, or race.
I have a dream.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. often talked about the beloved community. That's the human family, one race, one human race, where we will be able to actually love each other and treat each other as brothers and sisters. And I believe that that was a major, major point.
I would say that we're working and moving up the same road toward the same goal, which is freedom and first-class citizenship.
But his dream soon turned into a nightmare.
I remember the story when the house was bombed. She was actually the one in the home. And people don't realize that the first manifestation of an act of violence occurred with her present and not my father. And so when he got home, he wanted to check on her, and he was just amazed by her calm. And I think that nature in and of itself gave him a kind of strength and assurance to do the things that he did.
And one thing that stood out in my mind that I will never ever forget, Dr. King had been arrested, and he got home about 11 o'clock one night, and I was sitting in the living room in the dark. So when he came in, he was tugging at his tie, you know. He said, "You know what?" I said, "What?" He said, "You know, they tried to choke me, you know, with my tie. The more they threatened and abused me, the more that I would love them and forgive them." That is my first beginning and seeing him in the role that he came to play.
In order to demonstrate our commitment to nonviolence, we declare a day of penance.
Dr. King's drive and determination helped him achieve more for racial equality than anyone else ever had, but ultimately led to his demise.
When Kennedy was assassinated, my mother and father were together, and he said, you know, that's what's going to happen to me.
The day that I heard, I was preparing to go to an ROTC ball I was having a dress made, and it was a pretty dress. It was going to be a pretty periwinkle blue. And I was looking at the ruffles. It came on the news. I remember looking at the television, and I was like, oh my goodness.
And I was all by myself, and I was watching the news, and as I looked at him, he was delivering the speech to the mountaintop. And so naturally, I just got glued to the television. I couldn't move. I froze. And so when he got to the part that he said that he was not fearing any man, his chest went up and his eyes glistened like I'd never seen them before, I said, ooh, something doesn't seem right, doesn't feel right. I said, it just ain't right.
And we interrupt this broadcast to say that we just received word that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has been shot in Memphis. And I was frightened.
I just said, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord.
The community went into challenge of African Americans, their rights everywhere. And that had to be clear. And I think Mother's stance on April 8th, when she led the march, she was supposed to leave in Memphis the day before his funeral, and she called for nonviolence, and that we must continue in the tradition of love as he taught us, kind of help to settle some of that. But I think her message, and this grieving widow who would have the right to be angry and react, in a violent manner, it causes you to pause and say, okay, if she can be that way, let's settle ourselves.
And my mother will say that after his brother left him, my father, Reverend A.D. King, was forever grieved because M.L. King had gone. And my father cried almost every night, and I remember those tears as well.
Martin Luther King Jr. was struck down April 4th, 1968. But the dream lived on, and his legacy was full.
And so when it finally happened, though they were taken aback, they were strong enough to keep going. Almost immediately, Aunt Loretta knew that she wanted to build a King Center.
Well, she said from the very beginning of the movement that they were a part of something great in history, and that's why she started holding on to and gathering his papers and making sure that today we have those writings.
Well, one of my favorite messages from him is, "He who is greatest among you shall be your servant." And when I think about it, when I first heard it, I didn't really understand it. I could just hear it over and over again every time I would go over my grandma's house, and she would have the commemorative service booklet, and on the back of it you could see the quote. And I would always think about what it meant, and not until about a couple of years ago did I really understand that, he was greatest among us, and he was a servant to all of his people.
The values that stood out for me the most, and it has a lot to do with how I was raised and the values that I was taught, love and justice. And that's a message that we can all carry through every part of our lives.
Consistent with the message of nonviolence, because that's really what his legacy is about.
Exactly.
Our mom said struggle is a never-ending progress. Freedom is never really won. Earn it and win it in every generation.
And so I think he would congratulate us as a people, as a nation, for moving forward, and to say we still got to keep moving.
We've had to share our parents all our lives. For my father to give his life for the benefit of humanity, then I'm willing to accept that kind of sacrifice and just deal with the tears as they flow.
Well, hello everyone, and how is everyone? It's good to see everyone this evening. That you heard from the women of the King family, and we were together. We went to Washington D.C. in August, and then again in October, and I was invited to do a talk about my relationship with my uncle. And I said, well, suppose we got all the women of the family together. How would you like that? And so we all got together and kind of sat there and we chatted. And that is the man that I remember. That's the man that we remember. Very briefly, when I went to the high schools today. Let's see if that's there. I shared a real quick little PowerPoint that I'll share with you before we get into some of the other topics that we have to do. And this is me in 1982. I was a state representative in the Georgia House of the Georgia Legislature. And at that time, I was actually a Democrat. I have served in public office as a Democrat and a Republican. And my philosophy never changes. It should be the same no matter what party you're in. And that's the way I've always felt. Some things transcend political matters. And there I am standing under the picture of my uncle, Dr. King, and we had successfully gotten that portrait hung. Representative Hosea Williams, who's passed on now, and we also introduced, we were co-authors of the Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Bill in Georgia, and that passed as well. One of my favorite quotes that I like to remember from my uncle is, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And that's my dad, Reverend A.D. King, with Reverend John Porter and Reverend Nelson Smith, and they were praying in Birmingham as they were leading the marches there. This is the March on Washington, and that's my Uncle Martin here, my dad, A.D. there, and as they were marching, my mother also went. I did not go. I was younger at the time. This is our home in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama. This is not Montgomery. This is Birmingham, and our home was bombed. Now, the thought was, my uncle, when he was in Birmingham during those days, my dad was a chief strategist. They marched together and they prayed together and they preached together. But the thought was that they would be able to bomb the guest room, which was over here in the house, and to kill my uncle. They also bombed the motel that he would stay in sometimes, the A.G. Gaston Motel, and another home that night in an attempt to find him. This was a funeral procession. These are family portraits, and that's my Uncle Martin, Uncle Retta, Christine King Ferris, his sister, her husband Isaac, my mother Naomi, and my dad A.D. Daddy King, Mama King, all the grandchildren of that generation. I was the firstborn, and there's my cousin Isaac, the youngest. This is my dad A.D., my mother Naomi, and their first 4 children. My brother Vernon had not been born here. And here, Daddy King was remembering, and he would say, "Thank God for what we have left." And this was after the death of his beloved wife, who was shot in Ebenezer Baptist Church when she was playing the organ. And my dad had been found dead in a swimming pool with no water in his lungs and bruises over his body. And Uncle Martin, of course, had been shot. We called them Uncle M.L., and they called my daddy Uncle A.D., M.L. and A.D. Martin here had been stabbed in the chest by an African-American woman, or a Negro woman she would have been called at the time, who did not agree with his message, and she wanted to silence the messenger. And she stabbed him, but it is reported that when she stabbed him, he reached forth. "What's wrong?" Almost like, "How can I help? What's wrong?" And he was stabbed. And they took him to the hospital, and there was a brilliant Negro heart surgeon who removed the weapon from his chest. And the doctor told him, it's reported, "Dr. King, if you had sneezed, you would have died." And people from all over the country, my mother, one of them, she gives it in her testimony, and a little Caucasian girl wrote one of the sweetest letters that my uncle said he ever received. "Dr. King, I'm so glad you didn't sneeze." And everyone was glad he did not. I put this one in here because I want to make a context between those days and today. Because some things change, especially technology, but values do not change. And I picked the Star Trek Enterprise because I am a Trekkie. And and I was born in 1951. Television had been invented for the public in the late 40s. And you see how far we've come from the rabbit ear and the black and white set to the flat screens. This is the ancient now typewriter. Now we've got the laptops, the rotary dial phone and the iPhone or the smartphones, and the difference in technology and sound. Last page on here, a lot of this I write about in one of my books, Sons of Thunder, The King Family Legacy. this is a favorite memory for me. And I named this whole page Fond Memories, because we've been a very loving family and a very supportive family. Dad walked me down the aisle, and a week later, he was killed. He was in our pool with no water, and as I said, when my mother went to examine the body, there were choke marks around his neck and bruises and everything. Coretta and Martin and Coretta, he had been released from jail, and it had been thought that if he was not released, he would have been killed. And she was there to greet him, and she was expecting one of the children. I think Dexter was telling me the other day it was actually him. I'm not sure. Okay, now I want to, because this is also Black History Month, I want to talk about a couple of things here, and then come back and give some supporting documentation. This part, and I always say, if you got rocks in your purse, put them back, don't throw. Just kind of listen. Because I'm going to say some things that are shocking, that many people have not heard. But with this being Black History Month, all of this started, and when I say this, the turmoil that we experienced in life started many, many years ago. The issue of what we call racism or genocide or eugenics in the United States in the 21st century also started a long, long time ago. Now, I want to ask you a question, and it's not necessarily a comfortable question, but I want you to think about it. In the Bible, and this is not a preaching sermon, so don't worry, I'm not going to try to get anybody to accept a religious viewpoint. But in the Bible, there were slaves, and there were rules and regulations set forth on how to treat slaves. And if someone had a Hebrew slave, they could only keep the slave for 7 years. They could not mistreat the slave, and at the end of 7 years, they had to let the slave go free. And they had to give the slave property and gifts. And that was called Jubilee. And if you were of Hebrew ancestry, you could not be enslaved past those standards and regulations. Now, let me ask you a question. If any of you know about the Bible at all, I'll give you the answer. But Hebrew people, throughout their history in the Old Testament or the Ancient Testament, when they got in trouble, where did they run to? Africa. Egypt is in Africa, is it not? And so historically, when Hebrews had problems and they needed to leave home, they often ran to Africa. When they were in Africa, they intermarried. Finally, you can always tell the difference between the nations, because you know there's only one race on the planet, by the way. We don't have separate races. As you look at me, and I think you saw my daughter that I was sitting next to her, my cousin Angela, her daughter, my mother, my aunt, her niece, and the varying complexions of skin that you see in the African American community. But my cousin Martin Luther King III had a DNA test recently because he wanted to know the origins of his genetics. And so when they did a DNA swab, they found out that Martin's mother, Coretta, her origins were in Sierra Leone in Africa. However, the genetic origins of his dad were in Europe. Now, when I was a little girl, my granddaddy's sister, Woody, would say, oh, we're part Irish. We're from Ireland and Africa. And she would say that, and everybody said, oh, you're lying, you're crazy, that's not true. I said, Aunt Woody, what do you mean? She says, really? Because our daddy's was James, his daddy was Nathan, and Nathan's daddy was James. And so I went to Africa twice. The first time I went, I said, if somebody had the last name King, where would they have come from? People say Cork. Now, what else comes from Cork? There's a Blarney Stone there, right? The Blarney Stone is a gift of linguistics and talking. And if you kiss the Blarney Stone or whatever, you would get the gift of gab, or the ability to talk. Who's one of the greatest orators of all time? Martin Luther King Jr. Okay? But anyway, I went to Ireland and I investigated the first time. I went back and I went to the registry. And so when I explored the registry, there indeed was a James King, who was the father of Nathan King. He came to America. Nathan King had a son named James King. Daddy King's granddaddy was James King. So here you have a man with origins in Africa, because two of the Irish men married African women of African descent, freed African slave women, and that was Nathan and James. Now, here you have a man with origins in Africa and in Ireland, And also I have that as well, and I have the Native American, because my mother's people were part Cherokee. My mother's hair used to be so long she could sit on her hair. It's just straight black, long hair, and the cheekbones, and etc. So Dr. King always talked about a beloved community, where there's one human race, not separate races. Now, everybody on the planet did not agree with that philosophy, because there was a group of people, you can call them eugenicists or people who were interested in genocide and things like that. And that philosophy is there's an Aryan group who's more superior and who's better. It would be better if you can reduce all the rest of the population on the planet and let the superior people live. And so that was a premise and a thought as well. So you move through history from the time when Joseph, his brothers, threw him in a pit and he was sold as a slave. And then Moses, the people were enslaved in Africa, again, the Hebrew people. And he said, let my people go. Martin later was compared to a black Moses, and he also was called modern day apostle of love, after John the Revelator. So here you have this historical pattern of Hebrew people migrating or being sold into slavery or different things in Egypt, and they migrated through Africa. But you still had the rule of Jubilee in place. Now let me ask you this other question. I've been to Africa, and I don't mind you raise your hand if you answer this. Is there anyone here who's been to Africa? Can you raise your hand if you've been to Africa, okay? So especially if you go down on the West Coast and places like that, you have to ask yourself the question, how could a whole boat full of Caucasian slavers go to the continent with a few guns and get out and navigate through the territory, get the slaves out, kidnap them, get them on a boat, and get them back to America? It was totally impossible. They had to have help. And so who helped them? Joseph's brother, they were the same brothers. Joseph sold his brother to slavery. Idi Amin, later, he made slaves out of his own folks. So here you had African people selling their own people into slavery for gain or for profit. Okay? Now, why was it so easy for them to sell their brothers and sisters? Well, there was a question of faith back there then, because some of the people in Africa would sing, Go Down Moses, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, all these Bible songs, and they were just singing them, even though they were African, okay, but part Hebrew. So the indigenous Africans, the ones who were originally from Africa, said, we're tired of hearing these songs. Anyway, we can get money. Let's sell some of these folks. Then you get the slave masters who were only after money, Caucasian slavers. And they would buy these people and treat them horribly in the holds of the slave ships. Amazing Grace is a good movie for you to see and follow that. Wilberforce and William Penn. And the slave master, can't remember his name, but he wrote Amazing Grace. Okay, so we get over here. When I say we, my people, African people, and we get over here and we say, don't call me this and call me that, call me Niger. I'm from the river Niger on the west coast of Africa. So the Caucasian slavers say, okay, we're not going to call you Niger. It became nigger, okay? But it was royalty that came off of that west coast of Africa here. So here we are in slavery. A lot of that had to do with our attitude as well, because when you do well in the earth and you prosper and you have all this money, you don't need to have a God. You don't need to obey something you can't see. And, you know, you can sustain yourself and do it all yourself. So it was a major shock for African people to be in slavery here in America. Same time, though, there was the Irish diaspora, and Irish people were in servitude, not slavery, but they were often oppressed as well, which is interesting why you saw some Irish treated black folks really, really bad, but not all of them. Sometimes they married. All this was going on. So now you have a whole nation of people, transcontinental, here in this nation, and the slave trade stopped because of William Penn, two Caucasian men, Penn and Wilberforce, and then Abraham Lincoln here, later wanting to free the slaves. So now you've got this whole group of people who are no longer useful because they can't do free labor for you anymore. You have to pay now. So this is the problem and embarrassment. We mistreated them in the first place. Let's send them back to Africa. There was an effort to send black folks back to Africa, but the African says, who are you? We don't know you. You don't sing our songs. And you take the shackles too easily. We would die before we let somebody put a shackle on us. Who are you? So here we are in this country. Oh, around 1920 or so, there was an organization called the Birth Control League that was headed up by Dr. Margaret Sanger. And she had some brilliant ideas, and the ideas made sense to many people. I used to be one. I was one of the most pro-choice people you've ever met, and I agree with a lot of her philosophy. A woman has a right to choose what she does with her body, and yes, she does. I'll say that tonight. Yes, you do, ladies. Absolutely you do. Nobody can tell you what to do with your body. Don't let them. And there was a program called the Negro Project through that organization and others cooperating, called the Negro Project, saying to black women, specifically black women, the best way you can help your race, not your ethnic community, the best way you can help your race is to become sterilized and not be bothered with children, so you can really be an example, a model example to your people. That was the Negro Project. I have a dear friend, Elaine Riddick, who was sterilized. She had been raped, she was pregnant, she went to birth her baby, her grandmother was coerced into marking an X on the paper to say, we can sterilize your granddaughter, because her grandmother was raising her. And so it was believed that the best plan, because abortion was illegal during those days, but if women would become sterilized, especially Negro women, they would be more of a credit to their race. And so these things kept moving forward. And as they moved forward, my mother was born in the early 1930s, and my daddy met my mom when she was in the 9th grade. My mother had brought her from Dothan, Alabama, and they were living in Atlanta. They joined Ebenezer Baptist Church. And so Daddy saw her when she was in the 9th grade. Oh, she was the prettiest thing. He was going to marry her, and he told everybody that. So they courted for a few years. Courted means supervised activities, fun things together, but supervised, not dating. And my grandmother, her mother, who was a single parent, because mother's father had left to go back to his Cherokee Nation because he couldn't find any jobs. So Mama Bessie was raising mother. And so Mama Bessie's thought was, by the time they were in the 12th grade, they were engaged, and they were going to go to school. Mom was going to go to Spelman College. Dad was going to go to Morehouse College. And then they would get married. And so my grandmother made a big mistake. She said to my mother, okay, well, you've never been on a date. You've been courting, and that's good. But you're going to marry AD one day soon, and I'm going to let you go on a date. Make sure AD wears a rain hat. Now you got to realize my mother was well raised, supervised, sheltered, and kept. She was very innocent. And so they go on the date. So it's not raining. So mother said to herself, well, it's not raining. Why do you need a rain hat? They went on the date. They were alone. I showed up on the date because they had sex. Okay? Conception. Okay? Now on the way home, mother, if she were here, she would tell you this. She's told the story many times. She was on the way back. AD, why did Mama think you needed a rain hat? It's not raining. He fell out laughing, took a condom out of his pocket. He said, little girl, this is a rain hat. But don't worry, you're my wife anyway. I'm going to take care of you. So mother was pregnant, but by now she's going to Spelman College in her first year. Whether you were married or single, you could not attend Spelman College, all-girl school. So the Birth Control League was passing out some really good information at the time. She thought it was basically, a woman's not a broodmare, you can be a credit to your race, you don't have to have babies. And at the same time, abortion being illegal, there was a procedure in the country that took care of many mysterious female ailments. And you could go to the doctor with a mysterious female ailment, and you could get this procedure, and it often took care of a lot of mysterious female ailments. Pregnancy back then was still a mystery to folks. So that came in that category. We had a trustee on the board at our church. He's deceased now. And he was affiliated with the Birth Control League. He was a credit to the black race. And he was admired. And he would sit on the board and all of this. So he performed these DNC procedures to alleviate women of mysterious female ailments. So my mother had heard about all this, and she had had the flyers from the Birth Control League, and she brought it home, because by now she knew she was pregnant. Now, there was an archaic way of discovering you were pregnant in those days. I even experienced this myself, called a rabbit test. You may have heard of a rabbit test, raise your hand. Okay? They had to draw blood out of your arm, shoot it in a rabbit. If the rabbit died, you were pregnant. So mother did get a rabbit test. She knew she was pregnant. She had a mysterious female ailment, and she didn't want to keep it. So in 1950, her mother came to her senses, and she said, let's go talk to our pastor, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr. Daddy King says to my mother, sit down and get mind to you, that's not a lump of flesh. Remember now, there was no ultrasound technology in those days. He said, that's a little girl. She has bright skin and bright red hair. I was born with strawberry blonde hair. Perfect. He had a dream. So when people hear me say, I have a dream, it's in my genes, they think I'm quoting my uncle and trying to co-op off of that. No, I have a dream. It's in my genes. And my granddaddy gave me that dream. And my life. I'm 61 now. So basically that was a secret, because girls back then, if they got pregnant, today you get pregnant, doesn't matter. You're just pregnant. But back then, if you were not married, you got sent away to an aunt, or you went over to the Birth Control League for a mysterious female ailment, or God forbid, you went in a back alley and got somebody to mistreat you and not have the baby. But my mother had me. She and Daddy married and had 5 children all together. Now, what was the secret was that she was pregnant and had to get married. That was a secret, because you didn't talk about that in those days. But what was not a secret was I was the apple of Daddy King's eye. And my mother, though, through the years, until very recently in this century, don't bother me, don't be a pest. You're always causing trouble for me. Those were things she would say when she got a little irritated. But I didn't understand it. I didn't know. I didn't have anything to do with the rain hat or lack of rain hat. But we went through that until we both went through healing together. In 1966, and I will step over here and kind of show this if everything's not gone away on me. Okay, won't take but a second. There were a lot of programs out, the Negro Project to sterilize Negro women, the Tuskegee Project to give syphilis to Negro men and to treat some and not treat some and see what would happen. And there were all kinds of things going on like that, a lot of experimentation, new experimentation on something called chemical or artificial birth control. A lot of women wanted to do that. And so now there was also another process of birth control called natural family planning, which today is really kind of neat. It's just like you can go, and even you can buy a pregnancy test for $1 now. And back then they didn't have all that. And you can also buy a fertility test for $1. And you can take this little test, find out when you're ovulating. And if you're not ovulating, you have sex, you can't get pregnant. Now all that was mysterious back then, but it's not mysterious today. Same thing in 1966. Margaret Sanger, this is a direct quote from Dr. Sanger. She said in one of her reports, colored people are like human weeds and are to be exterminated. We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. And that's straight out of the journals of Dr. Sanger, because that's how she thought, for whatever reason. So Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was elected as one of the most highly visible and highly respected Negro ministers. And so he was offered the Planned Parenthood Award called the Maggie Award. Dr. King did not attend the award ceremony. Dr. King did not write the speech. Dr. King actually said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He said in the letter from a Birmingham jail, don't be like the Romans who practiced infanticide that led to their doom. He said that life is sacred. He promised that we should be nonviolent. So he was offered the award. Mrs. Coretta Scott King attended the ceremony, and she accepted it in his stead. So people say, well, if Mrs. King accepted it, that's the same, because she and her husband. But how many people know married couples, one is a member of one church, one another church. Maybe one doesn't even go. One's a member of one political party. The other's a member of another one. So married couples don't always have exactly the same philosophy. So I went a little further with it because I began to kind of look at the things they said that he wrote and said, and the things that he really said. This is a real good one here. You see these men here? They're carrying signs. They're Negro men back then, and they were carrying signs. I am a man. I am a man. Now, in the speech that was read at the time of acceptance for the Maggie Award, this is a paragraph from the speech, direct paragraph. Dr. King was supposed to have written this. Recently, the subject of Negro family life has received extensive attention. Unfortunately, studies have overemphasized the problem of the Negro male ego and almost entirely ignored the more serious element, Negro migration. Now, I'm a mother of 4 living sons. I have 2 sons who are in heaven, Philip and Raphael. Philip aborted and Raphael miscarried because of abortion complications, and her daughter Jessica. I have 6 grandsons, 9 grandchildren. And so when I read this to many men, they'll always say, women are always trying to tell us that our egos are not important and we need to be quiet, but our egos are important. So if my uncle had actually written that speech, it's very unlikely that he would say that the problem of the Negro male ego is overemphasized. His wife was reading a speech that was written by someone else. Now, this is another quote directly from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think I was there when he preached that sermon. And when you discover what you will be in your life, set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. Don't just set out to do a good job. Set out to do such a good job that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. And so we kind of just think about, if you read Dr. King's speeches, if you listen to them, the philosophies are just so different. And as I went through this whole thing, I just began to say, this is strange. My uncle didn't say that. My uncle didn't write that. How could this be? Now, how could it be? I was one of the most pro-choice women on the planet. I got married a week after my uncle, a week after my daddy was killed, a year after my uncle was. And I got pregnant on the honeymoon because I had been courting and not dating. Courting means you can go chase butterflies, fly balloons, go out and get popcorn, ice cream, go to movies, but no sex. And that's the way I had been raised, and it was a blessing. In my uncle's own words, he thought that that was the best way to live. Let me see if I got that up here. I think I do. Okay, no, I didn't put that one on here. But he had a whole list of things. He had an advice column in Ebony magazine, and in that advice column, he talked about waiting until you got married to have sex and disciplining your children and just many things. So we were kind of brought up, and the men in our family had a practice of telling the men to be disciplined, take care of their seed because it's going to bring forth new generations, and telling the girls, to kind of just discipline ourselves as well. Did they fall? Did they stumble? Did they mess up? Absolutely. Did I? Of course. Did David? I am going to throw this in here. I promise I'm not preaching. Bathsheba was married, and she was lonesome. Her husband went off to war. She decided to move her bathtub on top of the roof. Her roof is next to the palace. The king stayed home. He walks out on the palace. She knows he's at home. She's on the roof naked. The king loved beautiful women. Everybody knew that. So it was the king's fault, but it was also Bathsheba's fault. And they both had to suffer through that. And so, I had a little Bathsheba behavior in my life. Little woman at the well in my life. Little woman caught in the act. And believe I used to act too much. Okay? And that helped me to get abortions. It helped me to drink too much alcohol at one time many years ago. And so my life was like this. I get married, had my first baby. My doctor was on the board of the birth control league. And 3 months later, I went back. Doctor, do I need a rabbit test? What's wrong? My cycle's not on. What's happening to my body? Oh, you don't need another baby. Let's see. No rabbit test. No, let's see if you're pregnant. Let me give you an example. Using the same forceps that he had delivered my living son with, he did his examination, which ended up being an involuntary DNC on his table. And I was delivered of a mysterious female ailment without explanation. I was coerced. So here I am now, post-abortive, not quite knowing. So he says to his nurse, clean her up, send her over to Planned Parenthood. They'll be your friend, they'll help her. That's all what to do. I get to Planned Parenthood and I was given birth control pills. The reaction that I had to them, my body didn't like them, and I contracted a condition called phlebitis, and that was kind of a clotting problem in the hormonal imbalances and stuff that went with the birth control pills. So Planned Parenthood's next suggestion was an IUD. It's still relatively new technology, and it caused a lot of other problems. 1973, on my birthday, January 22nd, a law passes called Roe versus Wade, making abortion legal. Now, by now, I'm arguing with my little young husband. I'm not happy. I'm post-abortive, don't know it. I'm crying all the time, doing stuff. Little baby, so much. We begin to have problems. And so we break up and try to reconcile. I get pregnant. I go to Planned Parenthood, I'm pregnant. The baby's daddy, which he tells in his own testimony now, and he happens to be suffering from prostate cancer now, and he says some of his lifestyle had something to do with that. But here we are now. I don't want a baby. This is him. You're already not happy. We're not, no baby, no baby, no baby. And other people in our circle agreed with him. My medical insurance would pay for this new process called an abortion. It's legal now. It's safe. And I can get a safe abortion and my insurance will pay for it, and all of my problems will go away. Doctor said it won't even hurt as bad as getting a tooth pulled. It's easy, it's simple, it's safe. Now, here I am now. I'm a radical believer, a feminist, and I am still today. But this attitude, I had this attitude. A woman has a right to choose what she does with her body. So I'll get this abortion, it's okay. I'm tough, I can make it. So I get that abortion. That's the second abortion. That's my third pregnancy, because the first one was coerced by the doctor not telling me. So I'm a mother of 3 babies. And next few years, I'm going to Planned Parenthood, trying every birth control method. I'm divorced, I'm dating. I'm trying my life, flying my wings. A woman has a right to choose what she does with her body. What's wrong with these old fogies? And they're saying that something's wrong with Roe versus Wade. What's wrong with them? Mid-70s, I decided to date a man. He was a medical student. I got pregnant. I knew I was pregnant. No guessing this time. And I said to him, woman has a right to choose what she does with her body. I don't even know if I like you or not. I don't want to marry you. Just go get an abortion. I don't need your money. I'll go get an abortion. He says, you know what? I'm a medical student, I'm a resident. He said, that's 46 chromosomes, 23 from me and 23 from you, and I want mine back alive. I said, you must be crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me go talk to my granddaddy. So I go and I talk to my granddaddy. And he said, baby, they're lying to you. That's not a lump of flesh. That's my great-grandchild. So because of those two men, I was able to have that son. He's in his 30s. I have a son who's in his 40s. I have 4 living sons and 2 living daughters. Philip, Jessica, and Raphael are in heaven, and I believe I'll see them again. So over the next several years, it was still not a spiritual matter for me. Logically, it made sense. And that's when the first time I reheard Injustice Anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Because I realized Granddaddy and the baby's daddy told me that's a person, that's a human, that's 46 chromosomes. So then I said, oh, so if it's a person, it has civil rights. A woman does have a right to choose what she does with her body, but this is not my body. It's just something temporarily here. Someone, 83, I had a spiritual experience, and I rededicated my life to the Lord. And I said, you know, a woman has a right to choose what she does with her body. The baby's not her body. Where's the lawyer for the baby? How can the dream survive if we murder the children? So I had to repent. And people then thought I had totally lost my mind. Because I first started saying it in my business law class that I taught for 15 years. Morals and Ethics Today was a chapter in our book. I said, has America gone too far? A woman has the right to choose what she does with her body. The baby's not her body. Where's the lawyer for the baby? How much dreams of that? And all my students kept coming back for 15 years when they would write that paper. And all of them mostly found for the baby because they said that's a human being. And I tell women all the time, you absolutely do have a right to abort your child. You just don't have a right to kill the baby. So find out how to abort the baby without killing the baby. That's the quandary. And I know it is. So, we're looking at civil rights. We're looking at the words of my uncle and my daddy and my granddaddy. And me having finally to admit that abortion is an invasion of somebody else's civil rights. And that's how I met Father Frank Pavone in the late 90s. He asked me in the early part of this century to come and help him lead African American outreach. There's a website I want you to see real quick if I can pull it up. Okay. So, since I've been working with Father Pavone at Priest of Life and Gospel of Life, I've been working with other African American leaders, and there are quite a few of us who are kind of out just delivering the information about the numbers in the abortion and the targeting. I'm not going to play these tonight. These are 1-minute video clips, but it's blackprolifecoalition.org. And then it began to occur to us. We said, you know, black people are being targeted. We're 13% of the population, but our abortion numbers are matching those of the Caucasian group, who's, 90%. No, not really 90, about 60. So why are we having so many abortions? So then I told them, I said, I travel all around the country. I said, there are a lot of Planned Parenthood and other abortion clinics on Martin Luther King streets. People say, oh no, that's just an accident. It's just 1 or 2. So I just one day started Googling, and I think what I put in there, Planned Parenthood on Martin Luther King streets, 3727 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is one somewhere. 8950 Dr. Martin Luther King Street North. Okay. This one is just talking about Margaret Sanger. There's a new surgery center that's coming up, a 40,000 feet surgery center that's being built down, I think in Texas, near Martin Luther King Street. 2301, Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. And I didn't even look long. 813, Martin Luther King Jr. Way. So I just started looking for abortion clinics. A lot of them actually are Planned Parenthood streets too. Now, what the suggestion is that black women are underserved, and women in the urban community underserved, college girls, Caucasian, black, Latino, Hispanic, Asian, Native American women, underserved. So let's put these clinics in their communities so that they can get help. Free birth control. Chemical birth control. Nuvo Ring is one of the greatest, and it's this cute commercial, and it's get this Nuvo Ring, and you don't have to have babies. Now, on the back, it said, but it can give you a heart attack or stroke, so don't take it if you're subject to it. But how are you going to know necessarily that you're subject to it? So you're taking something that can increase your risk for heart attack or stroke. The other thing, breast cancer is linked to abortion. Coleman really is in the middle of a whole mess about that, because some of the studies are conclusively proving that breast cancer is linked to chemical and artificial birth control, to abortion and abortion drugs. So you're going to be taking things that can make you sick. You know, the flea bodies that I got from the birth control pills. Some ladies have not lived to be 61 after they took those pills. I have a daughter whose friend took the morning after the RU 86, and she died, a heart attack and a stroke. And my daughter, she says, you kept telling me that. I have another girl who took birth control pills for a long time, and she became infertile. We prayed and worked with her and everything, and she miscarried the first baby. So all this artificial stuff, but it's pretty convenient. If you don't have sex, when you ovulate, you won't get pregnant. That's convenient. And it won't make you sick. I'm almost done. Sally, can you come help me out just for a minute? Because, see, I think they think I'm making this up. It won't take long. Sally's going to come up and help me. But I'm going to ask her to tell you who she is, so you won't think I'm making this up. Plus, I'm tired of telling all my business and looking bad anyway.
Hi, my name is Sally Williams, and I'm president of Urban Life Matters. We're an organization to bring awareness to the urban communities about the horrific effects that abortion has on our community. There's a very disproportionate amount of abortions that are going on, so we educate and also bring hope and healing to those who have had experiences with abortions. My passion comes from my personal experience from abortion myself. I was 28 years old. In the church, grew up in a Christian home. Leadership in the church was dating, not cool. And we fornicated and got pregnant. And I'm sorry? Fornicated. And so a pregnancy was developed out of that. And we decided that we wanted to have an abortion. I wasn't married, and I wanted to be married when I had my child. Someone asked me last night, why did I get an abortion? I got an abortion because I didn't want to disappoint my mom and my elders at the church. My child would be 12 years old this year. And throughout that, what a lot of people didn't know, I think because what leads us to the abortion clinic, it's a crisis state of mind. And so we tend that pregnancy becomes a situation that we don't want to deal with. It no longer, the thought that it's a child begins to diminish because it's a situation that I don't want to deal with. So that situation I wanted to hurry up and get rid of. Well, I found out later after the abortion that that situation was a baby. And that situation, it just dawned on me. I was speaking for a heartbeat bill in Columbus, Ohio a couple of weeks ago. It just dawned on me that that baby had a heartbeat. And I've been speaking, and God has given me a name for my daughter. Genesis and actually showing me her face. These are things that women aren't told about going into the abortion clinic, that there's different stages after they've had that abortion that they're going to have to go through. I always say that, you could choose, you do have a choice to choose whether or not you want this child, but you don't have a choice to go through the consequences that are left behind after that abortion. Now, I personally dealt with depression, but through this recovery program that we have for post-abortive women, many have attempted suicide, substance abuse, very promiscuous. They're trying to have another baby to make up for this one. But all of us are unique from the womb, so no child could ever replace an aborted child. So that's the reason why Urban Life Matters is here today. We're here to educate, because there was so much education that I didn't know. But now that I know, we're taking the message to the church, to the streets, and every place like this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sally. Appreciate that. Now, I want to encourage you now to begin to write your questions. And in just a few minutes, because we finish at 9, that I want to show you 2 short trailers and 1 music video. And then I will answer questions until it's time to go. And I'm not going to pick one and say, well, I don't want to answer this one, this is too hard. I don't agree with this question. That process will not occur. The reason we ask to have you write them, there are a lot of people here. And it's a great temptation when you have the floor to take time to express your views, and we would like to hear them. So I believe if you can email or answer on the blog of, Sally, is there a blog thing? Is there a place where people can blog their thoughts or questions or opinions, or email them at any of the organizations that are here? www.urbanlifematters.com, and you can express that and maybe blog that and all of that. You can also, I have a blog, and you can answer on my blog over at priestforlife.org. And on this page, Dr. Alveda King's blog, you can go to the blog, and you can comment on blogs. And I mean, I'm actually on Facebook, but it's my understanding that I have too many friends now. And I can't answer them all. It is good. I'm not complaining. Okay. Now, this is a trailer. It'll make you mad. It always makes me mad. And so we suggest that you be angry and sin not. This has nothing to do with skin color. We're not mad at white folks, black folks, red folks, yellow folks. Whew. Mad at evil forces. We need to overcome them. And I told you I'm not one who can judge anybody, because I have just had a life. Okay.
Society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. I do not join in the belief that the African is our equal in brain or in power.
We are paying for and even submitting to the dictates of an ever-increasing, unceasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all.
The laws of nature require the obliteration of the unfit.
The best way to hate a nigger is to hate him before he is born.
American eugenicists were routinely praising Hitler and holding up the Nazi eugenics program as a model for the United States to copy.
Non-white races must be excluded from America. The red and black races, if left to themselves, revert to a savage or semi-savage state in a short time. The only way possible of decreasing Negro population is by means of controlling fertility. Birth control facilities could be extended relatively more to Negroes than to whites, since Negroes are more concentrated in the lower income and education classes.
We hope that the restraint of population growth can come about through voluntary means, but if it does not, involuntary methods will be used.
There should be national sterilization for certain dysgenic types of our population who are being encouraged to breed and would die out were the government not feeding them.
If this movement continues, we soon may be accused of fighting poverty by eliminating the poor and overcoming hunger by removing the hungry.
For all their failures, what the eugenics movement had accomplished was to lay the foundation for the next phase of their plan. And this is where they would find the success that they had been chasing for over 100 years.
Last summer, 3 of my children were expecting babies. My daughter, who's not married, she was not even dating. She was kicking it with a friend. She had polycystic ovaries and had been diagnosed as one who was infertile. She couldn't get pregnant. And up until that time, she had never been. I made a big mistake. I prayed for my daughter. That wasn't the mistake. I prayed for my daughter and said, Lord, heal my child. She wants to be a mother one day. Let her be healthy. Fix her body. The mistake was I didn't say. And let her get her priorities straight and put them in order and not become a mother until she's ready. And the father of her child will help her, and there will be parents who will love and nurture the baby. I didn't add that part to prayer. I prayed the Lord heal my child. She got pregnant. She told shock. She wanted an abortion. She didn't like the father that much. She liked him as a friend, as a person, but no, that's not who I meant to have a baby by. No. She couldn't tell me because we're very close. We do everything together. But I, according to my children and the pro-life, don't abort your baby queen of the world. So she couldn't tell me she wanted an abortion. She told her friends, go with me to get an abortion. My mama, I can't even ask her. Don't, just go with me to get it. And they said, Jen, I have her permission to tell this. Jen, we can't take you to get an abortion. Your mama has a commercial that says, don't abort your babies. So she came home. She used to show the commercial to her friends. She came home and started yelling at me about you and your commercials. But she kept the baby. I said, I'll help you. And I tell this story. I got my very first iPhone from my daughter, Jennifer, when she got her job. That's when she was saying, during the time she was fertile, she got a teaching job. She said, if you don't text me or tweet me, you'll never talk to me again. It's a present. I learned how to use iPhone. Now she's pregnant, and I promised her, I said, if you have that baby, I will help you. I'll do whatever I can to help you. I'm busy. I'm all over the world. But when it's time you have a baby, I'll take 6 weeks off, and I'll stay home, and I'll help you. And then I'll be there. I had downsized into a smaller home, and only my 2 sons and I were there. Jennifer moved in. There was not an extra bed, nor an extra room. Then her daughter, my other daughter, her sister called. I'm pregnant. I don't want this baby. I already had one. I'm in law school. Marriage is strenuous. I don't want this baby. I want an abortion. Baby, don't get an abortion. Have the baby. I'll help you. I'll take off 6 weeks. When the baby comes, no matter what I'm doing, I'll help you. My son, handsome, good looking as they can come, tough guy, he's swagger, he can do it all. He decides to get a young lady that I like really a whole lot too. So he gets in a relationship, and she's pregnant. The first day I met her, I came home, I had been gone several days, and I popped in unexpectedly. So he's down in the basement with a young lady. I said, young lady, what are you doing in the house of a Christian woman who doesn't believe in dating or fornicating in the house with her son, and you're not married? I said, if he'll treat you like this now, he'll treat you like this later. Yes, ma'am. I said, so tell me what you do here. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Later, not too much longer after the 2 girls told me they were pregnant, he said, she's pregnant. I said, okay. We want an abortion. No abortion. I'll take off 6 weeks. I'll help you. Yes, ma'am. She's a lesbian. I said, okay, no abortion. I'll take off 6 weeks. I'll help you. I said, wait a minute, she's a lesbian. So I asked her. I said, you really a lesbian? Yes, ma'am. I said, so how you getting a baby with my son? Because I was confused, you know. But she actually could still have a baby. So I said, okay, you're going to have 3 babies. Guess what happened? My son's daughter was born on March 12th. My daughter's son was born on April 1st. And then Jennifer's daughter was born on April 4th, the anniversary of Martin Luther King's death. And true enough, that's the time nobody could get me to come anywhere. And I was undercover. I was gone for 6 weeks. Because I had to do what I said I would do. Still taking care of them, loving it. My granddaughter, Lanice, she's 2 now, she was a little baby when her brother was born. And she grabbed me by the hand. We running. I'm like, yeah, baby, we running. I can't even run. I'm 61 and fat, right? But here I am with all these new babies. So how would it look if I had been that much of a hypocrite? Okay, we're gonna abort these babies. All these reasons I can't do this. Whew, and it's been rough. I promise you it has been. But it's been a major blessing because they are beautiful. I love each parent, the mothers and the fathers. We all have good relationships. And we're going to move forward. My daughter did tell me, the one who's not married, that she's not going to be having sex anymore until she's married. I was very happy to hear that. We're almost done. I thought I had that up. Maybe I didn't. If I didn't, I'll pull it up. I do need to show these last 2 things. Okay. And we're going to answer questions. These are true stories. We're not making it up. Sally didn't make that up, and I didn't. It'd be too painful to get up and really make yourself look like a mess without it being true. But God has redeemed me, and I'm healed. So it's not a bad thing. I'm happy, healed, and blessed. Okay, let's look at this one real quick, because I don't know if you've seen any of these. See if this is a real play.
We had a whole plan, the soul abortion thing. It was called sex education. Break down their natural monster, separate them from their parents and their values, and become the sex expert in their life. So they turned to us when we would give them a low-dose birth control pill they would get pregnant on, or a defective condom. Our goal was 3 to 5 abortions from every girl between the ages of 13 and 18.
Multitudes of people that have been hurt by abortion. It's just unfathomable. That abortion is really, to me, the ultimate exploitation of women.
It is so shameful and secretive that many women don't tell anybody that they've had an abortion.
They won't say anything for 20, 30, 40, 55 years. They're so traumatized with silence.
U.S. Senate report states, physicians, biologists, and other scientists agree that conception marks the beginning of the life of a human being, a being that is alive and is a member of the human species. There is an overwhelming agreement on this point in countless medical, biological, and scientific writings.
Planned Parenthood is expanding now. They're building gigantic abortion clinics in anticipation of socialized medicine.
There's a lot of money involved. We never would take personal checks. We always encouraged the ladies to bring cash.
Why is that?
So, well, you don't have to report cash, friend.
When you're fighting for your life, you need to know what you're fighting for. And if what you're fighting for is life, how do you destroy a life in an effort to fight that fight? I'm fighting so hard to save myself that I'll kill someone else to get that.
I recognized I'd been involved in the death of 35,000 babies.
And the truth has really come out about what abortion does to women, let alone the unborn baby, our dead babies. It will be over.
When we went to see Jennifer's first ultrasound, the baby was so tiny, you couldn't even tell the baby, but you knew the baby was there. The baby was kind of swaying in her womb. And I'm going on and on, oh, that baby's gorgeous. This is the most beautiful baby. Oh, I'm just going crazy. And Jennifer's like, that looks like a crumb. That doesn't look like a baby. And the lady who was doing the ultrasound, she's listening to us because we're just saying whatever we thought. And then when we finally saw the one of her, where you could tell, you could even see her dad's nose. You could tell she was going to look like him, and her dad's mother, and all of that. And she's gorgeous. So those are the kinds of things that I just personally have been through. And I want to show you this really quick, because some of the things I had up here dropped down. Okay, let's see. Let me do this one, and this is it. You can get ready to begin to turn your cards in just a moment, too. Let's do this, and we'll pick those up and answer your question. This particular song was written by a beautiful songwriter. The young lady who sings this song is Costa Borders, and I'm one of her mentors. It's called Silent No More.
In my fear, I believed a lie all those years. I was trying to hide away, ashamed of the light of day. Made a choice, thinking I'd be free, but that choice, it imprisoned me in my shame. Till I stepped into the light of God's light, the healing began. I'm free from the shame, I'm healed of the pain. I will be silent no more. I'm free from the light, love opens my eyes. I will be silent no more. Love broke through to the heart of me. Now the truth has come and set me free from the past. When I stepped into the light of God's love, forgiven at last, I'm free from the shame, I'm healed of the pain. I will be silent no more. I'm free from the light, love opens my eyes. I will be silent no more. There is power in my story, freedom from this night. There is healing and forgiveness if we step into the light. I'm free from the shame, I'm healed of the pain. I will be silent no more. I'm free from the light, love opens my eyes. I will be silent no more. I'm free from the shame, I'm healed of the pain. I will be silent no more. I'm free from the light, love opens my eyes. I will be
One other quick thing. I did Girl Scouts and Planned Parenthood. This is very controversial. A lot of people are talking. I met the other day a young lady, and she worked at the Girl Scouts club, and she went in as one day when she was off duty, and she went to pick up something. She had on a pro-life shirt, so the director said, "Take off your shirt." And she said, "I'm not taking off my shirt," and turned it on the wrong side. She said, "I'm not doing that." So she actually, I talked to her the other day, and she said, "That just didn't seem right. I have a right to wear my clothes and whatever." And I wasn't on duty, and so she didn't want to take off the shirt. And then I have been telling my cousins, the ones you saw in the video, I said, I keep hearing that there's a little boy who wants to be a Girl Scout. And they said, oh, no, there's no little boy who wants to be a Girl Scout. I said, yes, he does. And so they made the appeal to the Girl Scouts, and Girl Scouts made a decision that they could not say to the little boy whether he was a girl or a boy, and he could be a Girl Scout. So the mothers of the chapter of where the little boy wanted to join the Girl Scouts says, we'll just close down the chapter. So then somebody else got in touch with me and said, there's a curriculum. It's either called Healthy, Hot, and Happy or Hot, Healthy, and Happy or something like that. And that was a Girl Scout curriculum. And it was telling girls you could be hot, and you could be healthy, and you could be happy, and this is how you can have sex. So Planned Parenthood said, Girl Scouts said, that's not our curriculum. And Planned Parenthood said, pretty much that's not ours, but they both were passing it out. And I've never heard of how all that was happening. So there are a lot of parents who are just straight out concerned. If I could hit Control and click, it'll go to that link. Okay, but anyway, you have to look that up, honestgirlscouts.com, because this was from other girls that had various experiences with Girl Scouts. So these are just some things, and I understand that that question is prevalent here now, but it's a valid question. And just in case nobody asked me that when I want to answer you that, what do I know about it? And that is what I know about it. Oh, and my cousin, one of my cousins, a lady told her, because my cousin kept telling me that there was a curriculum, Hot, Healthy, and Happy, and there's a little boy who wants to be a Girl Scout. She said, that's not true, is it? So this lady worked for Girl Scouts. She said, yeah. And my cousin called me back. She said, that's really true. You weren't making it up. I said, why would I make it up? So that's how that happened. Why don't you mention the positive things about Planned Parenthood? Well, it's kind of like this. Y'all see I'm overweight, right? And I need to lose weight. My children at home, Mom, please don't eat that. You eat too much. We don't want you to die. I get upset about it. I'm a good cook. There's a lot of real good things about me. But one of my real problems is I like maybe food a little too much. So I don't really get mad at them when they point out the things in my life that may be harmful because they want me to live a long time. Now, I am working on losing weight. So I say, Sally, I want to lose weight. Alveda, I'm going to pay a year's to any weight loss program you want to go to. Thank you, Sally. Alveda, I love you so much. If you get hungry, I'm going to give you a year's gift certificate to Pepperidge Farm cakes because I know you like it. Thank you, Sally. Now, if the weight loss program doesn't work and the cake makes you too sick, I got enough money, I'll pay for your triple bypass. You can get sick. So does Planned Parenthood do some good things? Of course. But the bad kind of cancels it out. The other problem with that, if you really think about this, Planned Parenthood was saying that you couldn't cut the money because they were doing really vital services like mammograms. There's not one Planned Parenthood in America that we've been able to find live action videos with Laura Rose too that actually does it. They refer, but there are clinics that do not do abortions that refer to mammograms. So everything that Planned Parenthood is doing good, you can get from other clinics as well without the abortions. And the free birth control and the condoms. And they really are. Pregnancy care centers do a lot of good work. A lot of good work. And they don't offer. So that's why, I can tell you Planned Parenthood probably does really do some good things. Sometimes Planned Parenthood actually, they'll come in and get an abortion, and every once in a while they say, you sure you want to do that? Go to the pregnancy care center. I mean, I know of one where a lady's learned that she got fired, but she actually was telling them to do that, but she got fired. Martin Luther King Jr. stood for equality. Why do you believe gay people should be discriminated against? I actually don't. And have unequal civil rights. I actually don't believe that at all. And like I say, the mother of my grandbaby is a lesbian, lovely piece. She's in and out of my house all the time. We're together. The godfather of my first 3 children was gay. He's dead now. He's deceased. And we were very close, but we would have talks about sexuality. And he would say to me, okay, you say I'm wrong for being gay. I say, it is wrong to be gay. He said it's wrong to be an adulteress and a fornicator. He said, which one of us is going to get to hell first? We would have that conversation. We would have that conversation. I'm saying what he said. I'm just telling you what he said.
God loves you.
God loves you. Of course, if God loves me, he loves you more. And he loves you more. He does. And God does love all people. God loves all people. And so do I. But he would say that, you know? And at that time, I still had not fully committed my life to God. And I had to examine my whole life. So, if it's okay for somebody to say to me, don't be a fornicator, don't be an adulteress, don't eat too much cake and cookies. And nobody protests that, you see. So we can talk about my faults, and I don't mind, because I put mine out there. So I'm only taking cards, okay? Why do you not mention the good things about Planned Parenthood, such as cancer screening? How can you say injustice is not injustice? It's really injustice anywhere. There's a threat to justice everywhere. But it's okay to discriminate. It's not okay to discriminate against anybody. My message is this. All people have a right from conception or fertilization until natural death to be born. And we don't want to kill people because they are in the womb. You don't want to kill people because they're sick, because they're elderly, because they're poor, because they're gay, because they're black, because they're white, because they're rich, because they're poor. Everybody's entitled to be born and to live. That's my message. Amen. It has nothing to do with discrimination. Do you believe that TV helped to change public opinion towards supporting black civil rights by showing images of water cannons on lunch counter sitters and marshals? You know, my daddy, that happened to my daddy. Daddy finally ended up dead too and killed. But we were bombed, I was beat. A lot of those things did happen. And my uncle used to say, if we don't get this stuff, if people don't see what's happening, we are all going to be dead. And so television cameras began to show the bombings. They showed Emmett Till, who had been terribly beat up, and all of that. And my mother said, you know, as much as I hate to see pictures of aborted babies, I agree with Father Frank Pavone. America will not say no to abortion until America sees abortion. I'm post-aborted. I know what happened to my babies. I don't like to see aborted babies. But we have to do it. Thank you for telling the truth about Girl Scouts. Hi, my name is Patty Hunter. My aunt was an abortionist in Toronto during the 60s and 70s and was German. I am saddened by what she did and what the Nazis did during World War II. Are we doing the same thing as the Nazis here today? Well, you know, one time I would talk about this because to me genocide, you know, it's 40 million Jews, 55 million aborted babies legally in America since 73, killing slaves. There were less slaves killed than either of those numbers. But all of that was genocide. It all comes from the same force, from the same enemy. Has not much to do with skin color. Okay. I'm going to put these under. I'm going to answer until it's time to go. Okay, now, when accepting the Margaret Sanger Award, Martin Luther King Jr. wrote that unwanted children are a cruel evil the black community urgently needs to control. According to your own words tonight, MLK would be advocating for genocide by advocating for responsible family planning. Please explain how you can justify misrepresenting his position on Margaret Sanger's work in family planning. Martin Luther King Jr. did not write the speech. He did not. Okay, so Martin Luther King Jr. did not write that unwanted children are a cruel evil. He didn't write the speech. He did not attend the ceremony. He did not read the speech. So I'm not misrepresenting, because when I'm giving you his words, they're totally contradictory to that position. I've shown you the award ceremony. His wife stood there and read that speech that he did not write. He did not write that speech. He never said those words. how do you suggest the best way to get the black community involved in opposing Planned Parenthood, black genocide? You know, it's not so much about opposing Planned Parenthood. There are a lot of people, I even have somebody in my family, I won't say who, worked for Planned Parenthood for a long time. And then one day she had to stop because they asked her to take the bodies of the dead babies out. And she just said, I'm not doing that. They said, well, we're paying you. Somebody's going to do it. And she said goodbye and she left. Because she said her conscience, she couldn't sleep at night. Sally and I met a preacher, was it last night? And he was a security guard. He's also a preacher, but a few years ago as a part-time job, he was a security guard at the Planned Parenthood to protect the girls, the women who were going in. And he said, but I didn't realize what I was protecting them from. He said, when I thought about it, I knew that that wasn't a good thing. He didn't even know that it caused sometimes breast cancer, strokes, and heart attacks and all that stuff. And he says when he found out about it, it was a problem. Why are pro-life groups opposed to personhood amendments in the states? One of the justices who helped pass Roe versus Wade, he said, we identify whatever's in that woman as a person, this law won't stand. So they had to say the babies weren't people, but they really are. It's not so much about opposing Planned Parenthood, but educating the people and letting people make informed decisions. As somebody told me, and I really did believe it was my right to choose. And probably you can choose. Now, even if Roe versus Wade is reversed, people would still get abortion. Murder is against the law. Shooting people because you don't like them is against the law. So being against the law doesn't make them stop shooting them. You need laws to prick the conscience of the people. That's why you need laws. Simply to prick the conscience, to cause people to think. That's why we must have laws. But people